Hello, everyone. It is me, your favorite animator, artist, and entertainer entrepreneur, Christopher Williams. All right, so last week we were talking about the software GIMP, right? And GIMP is a wonderful art and photo manipulation software that we can use to create our wonderful art and animation. So, in the beginning, we spoke about animation, right? And I hope y'all remember what we were talking about in animation, where we were talking about stretching, we were talking about the importance of weight and gravity and all the different forces that you have to consider when you're animating, right? You have to think about timing, you have to think about balance, all those wonderful things. Then the next week, we spoke about art and the importance of art, why we need art in our lives, our favorite art and animation and animes that we watch, all those wonderful things. And then the week after that, we spoke about GIMP. And GIMP is that free software that we're going to use to create our wonderful art. So all of this is put in place so that we can do our spine animation because that is the animation software that we're going to be using, right? So spine, as I said, it's not a free software, but it is a really cool software. It's much more inexpensive than your typical art software. And why I personally use Spine versus the different types of there's tunerific, there's you can actually do it animation in Photoshop as well. But what Spine does is allow you to take a 2D image and attach bones to it like a 3D animation. And so it allows you to animate 2D figures like 3D animation. So today, that is what we're going to be going into. And I hope that you are super excited because I am super excited about it as well. All right, so we're going to do our normal. I want you to get up on your feet, get up. And what we're gonna do our favorite song. All right. So this time, what should we do it as? I want to say let's do it as a robot, right? Okay. So, oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly like to be. Or if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be in love with me. Error. All right, so through the magic of production and cinematography, we are going to go back to my room where we'll boot up my computer and we will talk about spine. So hold on. Boom. And we are back and we're in my room. So what we're going to do is we are going to open up our GIMP file, right? So you remember last week we had our fancy kitty cat. So let's bring him or her, I haven't decided if it's a him or her yet, back up. As you can see here. Let's see. So what we're going to do is just like go over a few of the stuff. So you remember all these tools, right? Your paint bucket, your paintbrush, your eraser, your move tool, your select. And what we're going to do is, so you can see over here, right? We have our cat. And I want to zoom in. So I go to zoom in right here. And now I can drag and it drags over to the face, right? So to prepare this, however, for our spine, you have to make sure that each layer is how we want it, right? And so, for example, let's look here. We have our face, right? And you can see if we drag over here that we have our pupils, we have our eyebrows and our eyes. But wait a minute, that doesn't look quite right now, does it? So it's called eyes, but we also have the nose and mouth included in that. And I don't want that because that doesn't look quite right. That's not what I want when I want to start animating for spine. So how do I only isolate this area? So what we're going to do is go to select. We can do either rectangular select or you can do an ellipse select or make it elliptical. But for now, for the ease of selection, we're going to use our rectangular select. So you click it, and then what we do is just drag over the area that we want to select, right? So now you see that this here section is selected, and you want to make sure that you're using the correct layer, that you're in the correct layer. So for now, what we're going to do is right click, and you see the similar menu comes up as what is up here. Isn't that super cool? So we go to edit, and now I want to cut this area out. So we out, and oh, it's disappeared. What just happened? Because we cut out that area from the layer, but I want it back. So what do? Is you can right click again in that area. We go to edit, and you can, if I want it in the exact same place that I put it, we put paste in place. All right, so you'll see that it's selected, and you'll notice over here, let's see if we can drag this over a bit so we can see more stuff. You'll notice that we have a floating selection. And so to put it in place, so as I said, I want to create a new layer with what I just pasted. And you'll see down here, we have these two green options where I can now create a new layer with that selection in it. So that is what I'm going to click. Boom. And you'll notice it's now says pasted layer. And I click it, and now it is separate from our eye layer. Super cool, right? So I want to rename this because pasted layer is not very helpful. So what I'm going to do is double click, and oh, I am going to rename it mouth, because that's pretty easy, right? So now it is labeled mouth, and you can just either click enter or just click on a different layer to rename it, all right? So now we have separate layers. We have the right eyebrow, we have pupils, and we have our eyes. Okay, and all of this together makes the head. So we have the face layer here, right? So we have the ears as an outline, and we have ears one, ears two, and we have the line arc here. But now I want to create separate ears because I want separate ears, right? So we can either color over it, which we'll do. You can just erase, which, whoop, click erase. And now we can erase this section right here. Boom. And then we can, for the left ear, click create a new layer, right? And we can call this ear color. The name doesn't super matter right now because I'll show you what we're going to do in a little bit. But remember, if we wanted the color for this, we can click or eyedrop if we don't have that color already. So we're eyedropping, and obviously make sure that it's in the layer that we want our colors in. And you click it, and there's the color right there. So for air color, we are going to color in this section right here. Doesn't have to be super perfect. We're not looking for perfection here because life isn't always perfect. So boom. And now you see that air is colored in, right? However, what if you don't want to do that, right? What if you're like, oh, I kind of liked how I colored in right here, but I just happened to make a mistake, which is fine. We all make mistakes. So let's just see, let's isolate that section. And what we can do is you can have the free select tool, right? And the free select tool allows you to drag over an area like so. Boom, super easy, right? And now what we can do is we can cut that section. Boom. And we are going to put it, let's see, cut, oh, my bad. We are going to cut that section. As you see, make sure that you have the selected layer, and I want to paste it back in place and create a new layer for that. Boom. Super easy, right? All right, so I'm going to rename this air color 2. Doesn't matter. All right, and press enter. So now we have that selection right there, and they're all separate layers. And so you can see, if I wanted to, we can now shift or layers in different positions so that they can do different things. All right, so we are almost done with GIMP. Let's zoom out. And I think, yeah, I think I like that cat. I like that cat a lot. So I think we're going to work with this cat in Spine. What we will do is you want to make sure that all the layers are prepared in advance, right? So you want to make sure that all of the layers are how you want it to be in that position. So as you can see though, we have these layers, we have the groups, but the layers are separated from each other, right? So the color right here is separated from the line art right here, right? And we don't want that. We want it to be fused together. So the easiest way to do that, see, is right click, and now we can, where is it? We can merge or layer groups. So merge the layer group. And now you can see it doesn't have that plus sign there anymore because it's no longer a group. It is now a solid, boom. Up here you can see it is now a solid layer. So we want to do the same for this one. As you can see, these are two separate layers and we want to fuse them together. So what we do, we right click and we click merge. So let's do this for the others, okay? So merge, merge, merge group, we are merging. Okay, so now we have all of these parts here, the body, the tail, and the hind legs, those are all different layers. You also want to make sure, just to be organized, that you name your layers in a proper what they are so that they're just easier to find. Believe me, you're going to thank me for this in the long run. So we want to rename this. Let's rename this front foreground leg, right? Doesn't have to be super accurate to what you're doing, but believe me, it helps. So, whoops, spelling is off. I don't want people to think that I can't spell. All right, so front foreground layer. All right, so the same, we're going to do something similar with the head, but I don't want to merge everything in this layer, right? Because we have all these different parts that we want to move separately. So for this, I want these two. So what we will do is right click and click merge down, right? So as you can see, it's different from merge group. This one is we're merging it down to the layer below it. So merge down, and now you can see that it's both layers are now together, right? So the same way we can see this is separate. If we click merge down, now they're together, right? So boop, 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 boop. Okay, now I want to merge my line art with the color right here. So let's merge down for that as well. And let's put this in a better position. Boom. Let's put both of them down here. All right, so that the ears are in the back of the head, right? Okay. Now let's also, we don't need it for that. We don't need it for that. All right. So all of these layers are in the positions that I want it to be, but it's still in a group. So what do I do there? Now for this, you can, let's see. We can, let's see, delete. Oh, we do not want to delete our layers. So remember to undo that, we can undo remove layer. That's a wonderful thing about digital art, is that you can undo just about any mistake that you make. I wish I could do that with real life, but let's see. What do we want to do? You can exit. You can, what can we do is, I think leave this for now. All right. So what we want to do is eventually put this in spine, right? So I want to make sure that there's as little space in preparation for spine, that there's as little space in between the cat as possible. So what do? We go to crop right here, crop. And what does that do? Crop allows us to take out as much space as we want, right? So let's go right down to here. And it's okay if you accidentally exclude part, you just drag it open and it's fine, right? So in order to have this space, you just click on the inside, boom. And as you can see, now it is a smaller canvas than what we had before, right? So we want to put this finally in spine. What do? We go, you make sure that the version of GIMP that you have has this. Python foo, make sure that it has its count. So as long as you see that option, it is there, right? Next, you want to go to edit and you want to go to preferences, right? And it'll bring up all the preferences for spine. You then want to make sure you go to folders, drag it down to plugins. You want to make sure that you also click the latest version of GIMP that you have, which as you can see is 2.10 right here. So click that and you click browse and it will bring up the plugins that you have right here, right? So you double click that. And in this case, I had already gone ahead and put the gimp spine.pe file in there. But to find GIMP to spine, you can simply just go to Google or go to your favorite browser, and I have it right here. So just Google GIMP export to spine, and it will take you to github.com, and you can find the file there, right? So it is there already. So once it's there, you can close this out. You can then either click OK. You can click OK, but since I already have this there, and then you want to make sure that you close the entire GIMP. Close it so that we can restart it. So you close, make sure you have your file saved. Boom, close it. And then you restart GIMP, okay? So restart it. There we go. And now you'll have the option to export to spine. So first, let's bring up our cat. Let's make sure that all the layers are where we want it. Okay. In this case, I made sure to turn off background layer because I don't want the background layer in spine because it's not necessary for what we're going to be teaching. So you then click File, and you now have the option of Export to Spine, and that is what we're going to want to do. So click that, and now it's going to, you can see the compression levels that we have, the directory. You can then click the other, and now it will bring up where you want to put the file. So it's important also to select a file that you can find easily. So let's go to desktop, and I already created a folder in advance called Spine Cat because it's spine and we're gonna be animating our cat, right? So I already have this here, but make sure you can name it whatever you want and have it there in advance. So I'm going to click open, and now it is there, right? So you click OK. And as you can see, it is exporting our spine cat. And it's going to be doing that for all the levels over here. And it shouldn't take very long, as you can see. So now I can close this since we don't need it anymore. Okay, let's save. And we can close that, we can close this. And now if you bring up spine cat, all of the layers are here, as you can see. So this is how you know that it worked. So you have all of these files, and you have a JSON, what is called the JSON file. Now it's important to make sure that you have that file, that .json file there, because that is what Spine is using to import the files into the software. All right, so we can close this, and we're going to finally bring up Spine. So I already had Spine in place, so let's close that. Oh, that is one of the projects that I'm working on, but we're not going to be doing that. So we want to import data, right? And you make sure that you have JSON or binary file open. And in this case, I already have it there, but I'll show you how to get it. So you go to browse, you see this folder right here, you click that folder, and now you'll see that the desktop, the spine cat folder that we had, it's right here. So this is the JSON file that I was talking about earlier. You're going to make sure that is clicked and you open that, right? So once you click, I have it as a new project. So when we click import, yeah, this card changes, doesn't matter. When we click import, it's bringing our cat into place like magic. Isn't that super cool? Boom. All right, so now all the pieces are here. But wait a minute, I can hear you saying, that doesn't look quite right. And why does it look like that? Because Spine just happened to import it in the order, out of order of what we want. And that's perfectly fine, right? So how do we fix that? This is Spine here. So our wonderful Spine animation. And you can see you have all these options. And if you go to images, these are all the files that has been imported. So if you just kind of drag over it, you will see that they're all there in place, right? So what do we do to make sure that this is also in the correct order? We go to draw order, and now you right? So now, as you can see, it is now in front of the body, right? And we want to go to make sure that is also in front of the body, right? So we also have, however, the ear and our head. So let's put these two are already behind, but we want our mouth right here and our eyes in front of that. So actually, let's just drag this down to here, right? And we want to make sure that our pupils is there. Boom. Okay, so one last thing. Want to make sure our ears are below. Okay, so that seems about right, right? So that seems, wait, no, our head should be above the body. So I could move each of them individually if I wanted to, but that would take a long time. So what I can do is I can press Control, I can hold Control, and now I can select multiple things at the same time, right? Or if I wanted to, I could click just one and hold down Shift, and now, boom, all of them are selected at once, okay? And now I can drag this above, where is the body? The body is right there. Let's drag this above body. So now all of them, as you can see, are now above the body, which is where the head should be, right? Okay, so we're going to be doing some basic stuff in spine. Because what did I say spine does? Spine allows you to attach bones to 2D figures, right? So if we go here, you can see roots, and we want to make sure that our bones here is visible, right? And as you can see, this is the bone that, or it's called root, that everything right now is attached to. So everything is attached to this root currently. And if we wanted to, if we could, if you want to rotate or scale it or translate means move it left, right, up, or down, we would hold that. And now, let's go back. Now everything moves around the root bone, right? Super cool, right? So let's undo that. Okay, but we want to create our own thing. So this is Spine Pro, and the cool thing about Spine Pro is that it allows you to create what are called meshes, right? So we will do that, and meshes allow you to bend that 2D figure. But in order to bend that 2D figure, we need what are called bones. And so our bones is right here. So we can create new bones, and we want to create a bone, say, for this arm right here. So our root bone is selected. That is the bone that every other bone we want to have will be attached to that bone, right? And so, you know what, let us create a bone for our body first, okay? So let's attach the first bone right here, and we drag it. As you can see, you can drag it as far or as long as you want. Let's put it down to here, right? And you want to think of where would the bone in an actual cat be, right? So we create our first bone, and as you can see down here, now we have a layer or called bone. So if we want to rename that to, let's call it cat spine. That should be easy, right? We rename here, you click the rename, and we call this one cat spine. And you just click OK. And now that bone is renamed cat spine. But look at this. While it's still selected, we are going to drag again, and it's going to create another bone right here. And you'll notice that it's now called cat spine 2, because this bone right here is the parent bone. And what does that mean? It means that every other bone behind that is attached to it will all respond to the parent bone, which is this. So think of it like your own family, where everyone responds to the parent. That is like this. All the other bones that we're going to create, boom, and let's put another one right here and another one right here. All of these bones, these 1, 2, 3, 4 bones, 1, 2, 3, 4 bones, all will respond to our parent bone right here, right? So if we wanted to test that, we could pose, and let's rotate it. And now you can see all of these bones here move when we move the parent bone. So let's undo that for a sec. But if I wanted to move this bone, see, these bones aren't responding because they are not, for this one, it's not the parent bone of these. This bone is the parent bone of these 2 bones. So think of it as your family, right? Some families you have the mom, dad, brother, older brother, younger brother, um, older sister, younger sister. So you have a hierarchy, or you have who is either the head of your family, either mom or dad, and then below that you have mom or dad who responds to everything that the first one says, and then you have your siblings, maybe your older brother, your older sister, you have to do everything they say, and then your younger brother, your younger sister have to do everything that you say, right? That is kind of how it works here, right? So you can say, wait a minute, Chris, you're moving around these bones and the figure isn't responding at all, right? So let's undo this. So what we want to do in order to have the body to respond, you have to go to our body, which is right, located right here. Make sure it's the right layer, as you can see. And you want to drag that image and its locator, if we wanted to, we can drag all of that down and make sure that it's on the first parent bone. Drag it down there, and now it is down here attached to the spine that we want. So now look, when we move this bone, oh, everything responds, okay? Isn't that super cool? I think it is so cool. And that is the wonderful thing about spine. So what we're going to do is we're now going to do that with all of the pieces that we want to move, right? So if we want our hind leg, I want when the hind leg moves, I want it to be responding to our parent bone, right? So we make sure that when we're creating, we select our bone here as the parent bone, and then we can now create a new bone. Boom, boom, and let's create another little one here. Boom. Actually, you'll notice that this is the spine. It's called spine, but we want to rename it, right? So we will click rename, and now we can call this, what did we want to call it again? Let's call it thigh, the hind thigh leg. It's okay. You can always change it later, it doesn't matter. You'll notice though, because we didn't change the name in the first place, that all the other children bones are named after this one. So it doesn't really matter, but just to keep consistency, we're going to rename them the hind thigh bone. So hind thigh leg one, click OK. And let's label this hind thigh leg 2. All right, so we renamed that. So you will see, as we said, the parent bone becomes the parent of now all of these bones, right? So if we move this bone, let's rotate it. Oh, obviously, it doesn't, you can see that these bones now move alongside with it, right? But remember, remember, if we want the hind leg to move, the actual picture of the hind leg to move with it, what do we need to do? We need to make sure that we attach, let's see, make sure it's the right one. We attach this here, which is a placeholder, called a placeholder. and we drag it down into the correct bone, right? So now it's there. As you can see, if we wanted to collapse it so that it doesn't take up too much space, we can click this arrow right here and it won't take up as much space. So now, as you can see, when we move this bone right here, everything will move. Boom, there we go. However, if we want to just now move the leg will move on its own if we drag it around. So this is just rotation that I'm showing you. Let's undo that. So it moves back into position. And so, as you can see, everything is coming together, right? So let's now do this with all of them. So you want to make sure that you have the correct parent bone that you want. And we create. And now I will create here for this bone. Let's rename it front legs. Click OK. So now that when we create the second bone, then the third bone, they now all have the name front legs as well. Okay. So now I want to create, let's create for a tail. Let's go 1. Let's rename it tail. Click OK. And now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. With our tail, we want to, I'm doing it that way, and I will explain later, but it will allow me to move it much more fluidly this way. Again, we want to think of, if it were an actual cat, where would most of the bones be that we want, right? And so that is where I'm putting all those in place, as you can see along here. All right, so let's keep going. So let's create more bones, and this time let's create it for down here. Let's go 1 and rename this hind background leg. Oh, leg. There we go. And click OK. And now you can create 1, 2, right? Let's go back to create, and we want to click that to make sure that it's our parent bone again. And let's do it for this leg right here. Go 1, 2, 3. Oh, let's undo just so that I can rename it easier. So we'll rename this front background leg. There we go. So animating our cat, animating our cat. There we go. All right. So last but not least, we have our head. So for a head, I want this area here to not to be the bone, to be the parent of our head, because the head gets moved around by the neck, right? So I click this to make this the parent bone right down here. And if I wanted to, I could rename this. Let's rename it neck. Okay, press OK. And for our head doesn't need to be too complicated. So let's just have one big neck right here, one big head, bone. Let's rename it head. Head, and then we want for our ears. So let's create or make sure that our head is now the parent bone. And now we can create one, rename this ear, and then go back to making sure that this is the parent bone again, and we can create, drag it up, and now that is, let's just name it ear 2. Ear, actually ear left. Click OK, and let's rename this ear right. All right, so now we also have our eyebrows and our eyes and our mouth. So we want to zoom in, and to zoom in, as you can see, there's not really a zoom button. But what you can do is right click. Right click allows you to move around, or you can press, if you want to zoom, Control, and now the right click allows you to zoom into place. Isn't that super cool? Right? So now we want to create bones for our eyes and bones for our mouth and bones for our eyebrows. So we want to make sure that our head is again selected, and we will put since the eyes all move in one position, we will just have one, let's just click it to create our bone for that, and we will rename it. Let's make sure, click that, and create it here, and we will rename it eyes. Since both eyes will move at the same time, I won't distinguish if it's the left eye or the right eye. But also, we want the pupils to move, right? So let's have this, as you can see, it's highlighted. You can know that it's highlighted because it's blue. And we're going to create another bone on the opposite side just so that it's easier to distinguish the two. And we're going to rename this pupils. Because, well, technically it's the iris, I do know that, but yeah, we'll just name it that for now. All right, so we want to, as I said, move each individual eyebrow and each individual mouth as well. So we want to make sure that the head is selected and we create a bone here. And we'll rename this bone mouth. And click OK. And let's select head again and have one, we'll call this one eyebrow left. Click OK. And we'll have another one, select that. And we will call this one eyebrow right. Right. We click OK. All right, so we want to zoom out again. As I said, you press hold Control, and you right click, and you just drag it out to wherever you want, right? And if you want to move the cat into whichever position we want on the screen, you just right click and just move it into place, right? Okay, so you can see we have all these bones here. we have to make sure that the images are attached properly. So that's what we're going to do right here. So just want to make sure that the correct image is attached to the correct bone, or else it won't move properly. All right, so all you have to do, as I said, is just drag it into position. So now, as you can see, this is why it's important to name the layers properly, to name your bones properly, so that we can find them easily. All right, where is it in this case? Let's see, it is, oh, oh, there we go. Obviously, the front background leg, duh. All right, so we attached it here. And so now we'll just do that with all of the others, right? So our front foreground leg, we want to make sure that it's attached to our front leg up here, right? And then our color, which had that as the head. So let's drag this into head. Put that here, head. And our ear, left and right ear. Ear. This is the left one. So we put that here. And this is the right one. So we put it in ear right. Okay, our eyes. Our eyes go here. Our hind leg goes here. Our left eyebrow goes to eyebrow left. Mouth goes to mouth. Right eyebrow goes to right eyebrow. And let's see, pupils go to pupils. Boom. And tail goes to tail. All right. So let's see. If everything is in place, then oh yeah, there we go. Everything is moving in place. Right? If we just hold it, this is how you test. You make sure that we have our kitty cat here. He's animating already. As you can see, if we want to test out the different areas to make sure that they work, you take that and we can move each individual piece, undo to put it back in position. There we go. The head moves just fine. The air moves just fine. All right. All these pieces here are moving just how we want them, almost how we want them to move for now. All right. So as you can see, that was a lot of work, wasn't it? But we're inching closer and closer to becoming full-fledged animators. Isn't that super cool? As you can see, it is very challenging sometimes. And that's the thing about life. Life can be challenging sometimes. But if you work hard and you make sure to persevere and be consistent, then there is literally nothing you can't achieve. Sometimes the hardest part in life is being brave enough to just get up in the morning. And I get that. Sometimes it can be tough to just want to get up out of the morning. But if you have the courage and you are willing to just get up, do the simplest thing of just getting up in the morning, then I am 100% proud of you, because I know how hard it is sometimes to just not want to do anything in life at all. But you are brave. Remember, you are important, and everything that you do, I hope to see it one day. Next week, we're going to talk about actually animating this cat over here, and I hope to see you there with me. Okay? Take care of yourself. Bye.